All right. Crack open a Rockstar Recovery. I guess that's what I got this morning. Yeah, that's pretty good. Pretty good. Did a 7-mile run this morning. Getting ready for a half marathon here in the next month. Actually, within a month. So, anyway, I should be higher mileage than I am now, but it's early. It's early season. I think we're in March, end of March now, and it's been unseasonably warm for us here in Utah, but it's been cold the last week, so I just hate running outside, and treadmill on long distance is just pretty much not going to happen. So anyway, yeah, a little long intro here. Hey, we're talking about the Project Cheap Carbine. We've got it on the table here. I'm going to break it down and show you guys a couple of things that I'm having issues with. So, couple things. So I took it out shooting one occasion, okay? So we've been out shooting once with it, and we had issues. Now, one of the issues we had, hold on one second here, let me pull out the... One of the issues we had was feeding with the ETS mag, so Elite Tactical Systems mag. I love these magazines. Okay, these magazines are tough, durable. Check out the review that I did of these mags. We did a torture test on them, and they performed really, really well. However, with this rifle, for some reason, we were having issues with these mags. This mag was not... The bolt would come back, but it wouldn't pick up another round and feed it in. And I didn't see any jams or anything. We weren't experiencing jams in the actual magazine. It just wasn't feeding. That is maybe due with the mag because it didn't do it at all with the P mags. But I don't think it's necessarily a big deal with this magazine. I'll tell you why I think it is here in just a second. But we pretty much shot some Perfecta brass. I think we shot some M193s through it as well, some Independence rounds, and a whole lot of like steel. I mean, this magazine has steel here in the bottom and like I believe PMC in the top. So I mean, we were running through all kinds of like random loads. I had a bag, like a Ziploc baggie full of just random brass case stuff. We had some, Wolf, we had Tula, we had a couple like no-name Russian rounds, and we just kind of loaded them all into the same magazine. So it shot a bunch of random ones, and actually that was that random magazine was through a PMag, and it actually ran perfectly fine. No problems, no feed issues at all. But there's two issues we had with the rifle, the first 200 rounds. We've had 200 rounds through it. I also put the suppressor on it, so we ran at least a mag and a half, maybe 2 mags through it with suppression. So I think for like 60 rounds of it, we were suppressed. But yeah. Okay, so a couple things that we had problems with. One was it wasn't picking up rounds out of the ETS mags reliably. And the other was I was having problems with the trigger reset, okay? So what I want to do is just kind of run you through and see if I can... I have not been able to reproduce it since I've been home or whatever, but... yeah, not too bad. That's one thing I'm noticing, this trigger is failing to reset. Failure to reset. I'm pushing it forward and actually resetting here. Okay, so there it reset by itself. But it's not resetting. So let's, we're going to clear the rifle. Okay, it's clear. Pull the trigger. Okay, and then we're going to run the action one more time. And, I'm going to let the trigger off nice and slow. Okay, and it's reset. Okay, it's resetting now. In fact, I have not been able to reproduce it. The reset itself is you heard it. It's very audible. It clicks into place. But the pressure on the trigger forward. So after I press the trigger, right, the amount of pressure that the trigger presses back towards my finger as I'm letting off is really, really light. And what I was having problems with was the trigger actually not resetting. And so I'd actually have to literally go back and push the trigger forward to reset the trigger. What I've identified it as is a weak reset spring. Okay, so I took this out. I've actually taken the whole thing completely apart. I didn't film that part, but and I've identified that the spring is a tad bit like weak on it. I don't necessarily think it's a big deal, like because it hasn't been doing it since those first like 100 rounds as much. And so I think it's something that maybe it's just working its way in just a bit, like the trigger is polishing better. So I'm just going to continue to run it and see how well it goes. Now, if I'm going to be doing like an order from, a company, like if I'm going to order some parts from a company, I think I'll probably just throw a trigger spring kit in that order just to replace it. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, trigger springs, I'm probably looking $5 to replace like all the trigger springs in it. So I'm not super worried about it, but that's one thing that we were definitely having issues with. Okay, now, the next thing, okay, that we're having, let me grab my Ruger, my AR-15 here. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock the action open, okay, on this, and hopefully this will demonstrate what's happening. I'm going to hit the bolt release, okay, so I want you to kind of watch the bolt, how fast and hard it hits, okay. Pretty quick, okay, pretty quick. Nice little solid close there, right? Now, we're going to lock the Project Cheap Carbine open, okay? Same thing, all right? We're going to release it. Listen to this. Okay, I don't know if you guys could tell, but that was way harder and way faster than the Ruger. Okay, way harder, way faster. In fact, actually, to work the Ruger action, it takes not a whole lot of pressure. I have no problem doing it one-handed on a mil-spec charging handle, okay, on the Ruger. I have no problem bringing it back and letting it forward, okay. On this one, it takes a lot more pressure. Like, I'm having to kind of force that action open, okay, and it's slamming home really hard. Okay, the problem with that is, right, the issue is the buffer spring in this is ridiculous. It is ridiculously strong. Okay, it's not appropriate. It's not a correct spring. And I kind of felt that immediately out of the box, like when I pulled it out. Let's pull the buffer out here. Okay, I kind of knew it. I paid $30 for the rear set on this rifle, the extension tube, the buffer tube, the buffer and buffer spring, and the stock. $30, so it's pretty dang cheap. Now this is a standard, I think this is an LBE rear spring, okay? So you can kind of tell immediately that if I line them up, right, that this rear spring is longer on the cheap set. It's also black, okay? And I don't know, like, let me take the buffers out here of the actual springs themselves. I'm going to weigh these buffers too, because I'm curious as to what they weigh. But there you go, look, look how much. It's about a ½ inch longer overall length on the spring, okay? And if you hold them back to back, okay, like line them up as much as you can tell that the normal buffer spring is definitely it's stiffer. You can see how the black one's stiffer there. Hopefully you guys can see that in the camera will focus. All right, this one sags down more. All right. And overall, the spring tension, the spring rate on this is just not proper. Okay, not proper at all. This one's nice and springy, nice and loose, and this thing is like stiff. Okay, really stiff. So it's not proper. Let's weigh the buffers real fast here. I'll just read off the weights to you. Let me go in ounces. 3.07. So pretty close in actual buffers. Okay, pretty close in weight. So there's not much difference there. So what I'm going to do is let's throw this buffer in with this buffer spring, and I'm going to throw it back into the carbine. This is like I said, this is an LBE Limited. Okay, yeah, that's the name of that buffer spring. Okay, now, yes. Now immediately I can tell the difference. Okay, immediately. Okay, went home just like every other standard AR-15 that I've ever experienced, and to rack the action now, perfect, no problems whatsoever. So it's definitely a cheap, inappropriate spring, a cheap, inappropriate buffer spring. That's one of the biggest issues. Now, what I'm thinking is happening with the ETS mags, I have not experienced any failures with ETS in any of my rifles other than a cheap carbine. And what I think is happening is, I think that this buffer spring, especially on weak ammunition, is not allowing the bolt to come back entirely and give the mag enough time to kick the next round up, and so it's just cycling the bolt very, very quickly, not giving enough time to cycle the next round into place, and it's just closing back on an empty chamber. So I think that's the issue, and I think now that I've changed out the spring in this, I think I'm literally going to have zero issues with that at all, and I'm going to test again with the ETS mag and see if it does the same thing. So those are the two issues that I was having: a bad spring, and a bad spring in the actual trigger kit there from Anderson. If Anderson's watching, they can send me a trigger set if they'd like to replace that. But yeah, that's the issues I'm having. Otherwise, everything actually functioned very, very nicely. Now, the handguard, because people are going to ask me they already have what I think about the handguard. We're going to do a complete review on that. In fact, I'm going to film that actually right after I do this little update video, range report video. But so far, I actually really like it. It's very comfortable. There's a couple issues with it that I'll talk about in the actual review, but otherwise, it held up nicely. The accuracy on the barrel, I don't know how consistent the accuracy is. I was having a little hard time hitting about 75 yards on our steel target. That, though, is also contributed to the fact that I was shooting iron sights and not like a dot or a scope. So, but speaking of scope, actually, I just got the primary arms 1:8 by 24 scope in. This is with their ACSS reticle. Got this in from Optics Planet, so I'm going to be doing a review on this scope here very soon. So actually, what we're going to do is I'm going to mount this scope up to the Project Cheap Carbine. I just ordered this from Optics Planet as well. This the American Defense Recon 30 mil standard. I love these things. This is probably like my fifth one I've purchased from them, and it's fantastic. It's my go-to scope mount. I mean, these things are rock solid. I love them. So, and I think I got this with my discount code DocTacDad5. I think I picked this up for like $161, so $161 I think is what I got this excellent piece for. So that's great from Optics Planet, free shipping. So, yeah, $161 with my discount code on that. And then Optics Planet actually sent me the primary arms. Anyway, so we're going to throw that on the cheap carbine, and we'll do some accuracy testing on it. So we'll show you guys how that Anderson barrel does, that $64 Anderson barrel. So, yeah, it's going to be kind of fun. So, all right, guys, but that concludes just a little range report on the Project Cheap Carbine. I actually really like the form and function of this rifle. Now that we've changed out the spring, it should perform just like any other mil-spec rifle out there, and so I'm excited to put some more rounds through it. So anyway, guys, if you have any questions at all, hit me up in the comment section down below, and I'll try to get back to you. Also, if you guys do Instagram, you should follow me on Instagram at DocTacDad. Okay, I post all my own content on there, so I don't do any reposts, or very few anyway. And so you guys can hit me up there. It's kind of fun. I like it. So, all right, guys, thanks very, very much for watching, and we'll catch you guys next video. See ya. Here we go.